Hello, everyone. I'm Reverend Nick Bullitt, the engagement catalyst here at One Spirit, and I am sitting here today with Reverend Laura Billings and Reverend Nura Hirmina. How are you both doing?
Hey, Nick, doing well.
Good to see you both, and we're here to talk about your upcoming workshop. So I just wanted to start out by asking you if you could share a little bit about your professional and spiritual background.
Gladly, Nick, and I'll start with my spiritual background. I am an honored graduate of the One Spirit Interfaith Seminary class of 2020. My maternal grandmother was an Irish Catholic, so I have Christianity and the good news of Jesus as my foundation. A couple of pivotal points for me in terms of my spiritual journey were coming upon Marianne Williamson praying on Oprah Winfrey. It completely touched me and gave me pause, which sent me into A Course in Miracles, and particularly around shifting perspective, which is a miracle, and forgiveness as a path to love. Mm-hmm. And then the other big turning point that builds on my Christianity was coming into yoga and realizing that through the breath, I could feel my body and connect with my heart, meaning my head was really super active, engaged through yoga practice and a lot of yoga training. Those are the key pieces of my spiritual journey to date. My professional background has been in education. I was a career educator for over 30 years, and 2/3 of that time, my work focused on teaching teachers, particularly about group discussion. And the intention was to help students build their cognitive skills or critical thinking and their ability to communicate with people who are different from them. And I couple that with my work as a classroom teacher to bring to all of this today a passion for dialogue, thoughtful dialogue, and communication.
My spiritual background is very, very eclectic. I consider it very much like a quilt. I'm an ordained interfaith, interspiritual minister from One Spirit. Also had completed the interspiritual counseling program. I'm currently a second-year dean with One Spirit, and One Spirit provided the container for all the paths that I touched upon in the decades leading up to attending seminary. So like I said, I consider it very much an eclectic mix of the faith traditions, a lot of mystical practices. Yoga is in there, meditation is in there, contemplative practices are in there. There's room in it for everything, which is nice. And my professional training has been in corporate. My degrees are in business. My doctorate is in ministry, but my 2 undergraduate degrees are in business. And I work in high tech, and it's a place to practice what I preach, so to speak.
Beautiful. You both have such a varied background. So your workshop is about conscious communication. What does that mean?
Conscious communication, as Laura and I have been talking about this for months, it's intentionally communicating, whether it's the spoken word or the written word or just the thoughts that pass through our head that we're not even aware of. We view it in terms of communication with ourselves. Like I said, those fleeting thoughts that you don't even realize you had until it passes and you go, wow, I didn't realize I still felt that way, or a thought about somebody else that you hopefully, if it's not in their best interest, you don't act on it. And then also the words that we exchange with others, and then how we engage in a group, and definitely how we engage with spirit. So it's being intentional about all those things, intentional about the words and the thoughts that we put out into the space. Yeah. So Laura, did you want to add anything to that?
Sure. I would just go back to the basics of communication. We do have words as our human tool to connect with other people, as Nura said, to connect with ourselves and the divine, and also point out that it's worthwhile looking at communication as speaking, listening, reading, and writing. And so we may add that conscious communication is both a spiritual an emotional and an intellectual pursuit that we are sort of navigating and putting together moment by moment.
During the 4 weeks together, so this will be offered on 4 evenings in the month of January, we're going to focus on one type of communication interaction. So week 1 will be partly in group, but also partly around self-talk. And week 2 will continue some of the self-talk work, and then we'll move into engaging with spirit. So we're going to discuss prayer, whether it's more of a contemplative prayer or more of an active prayer form, the collect prayer form. And then we'll move into, by the 3rd week, group and interpersonal. And the 5th week will be about reading and writing as sacred practice.
And so communicating obviously is such an important topic. So why is it important for you to create a workshop like this?
We came upon the idea simply from communication being essential to everyone's lives, that there are fundamental skills that one can practice and learn, which are coupled with cultural influences, personality. And we are offering this because we feel like there are a lot of assumptions about communication that can be investigated, that we are taught to read and write in school, and a little bit of teaching goes on about speaking and listening. And then we're left for our lives to figure out how to do this well. And we feel like there's a way to differentiate, if you will, between style and skills so that they then come back together.
Communication and conscious speech, as it were, has been a really critical part of my spiritual maturity. It has helped to heal relationships. It's helped to foster relationship. And I've been able to sort of watch myself as I've matured and seen how there were times when perhaps I didn't communicate as well or as eloquently or with as much grace or consideration as I could have. And one of the things that is a practice, right? Because it is a practice, and that's part of why we're creating this workshop. You know, everybody knows this, right? We all know to think before we speak. We all know to like drop in our heart, especially if you're part of the One Spirit community, drop in your heart before you lash out, especially when there might be some tension with the other person. But we wanted to create a space where we can bring to light some of these things that we've come across over the years collectively, and then also have a space to practice them. So conscious communication, conscious speech has really changed the way that I engage with the world. And I feel that you hear that a lot as we get older and as we acquire skills and some life experience often. And it's not always with life experience, but for me, it's been with life experience that I've learned to embrace this really as a practice. Conscious communication is for me very much a spiritual practice.
And as a spiritual practice and in the workshop, are there any particular modalities that you're going to touch upon in the workshop?
Yes, the use of discussion as a laboratory almost, or a place to look at and experiment with different approaches to communication will be one. And I should give credit and say that this will be based loosely on what is known in education as a Paideia seminar. In addition to that modality, we will be doing a variety of written reflection, small group discussion, and individual reading.
Aside from the objectives of the class that you have, what do you hope that participants walk away from having this experience?
Well, some skills. And, you know, what we want to create is an environment for people to practice. So it's intentional mindfulness around the thoughts that swirl in our own heads about ourselves, how we engage with one another, how we engage with spirit. And we hope that they take some of those skills with them, that it is more intentional. That really is what it comes down to. That whether you're having an inner dialogue or a dialogue with your closest friend, family member, or even someone where there might be some tension and you want to move beyond that to heal perhaps a fractured relationship, that they have some of the skills to do that.
The point is that we can get better at this for ourselves and for the world.
Mm-hmm.